We're live.
Yay.
Just going to check, make sure that it's all happening in the group properly.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here we go. Yes. Oh, there's a. Can you hear that? There's like a feedback loop.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. Have you got me on your phone?
No,
Have you got Facebook open on your computer?
no.
Yeah, I can hear myself. It's on my computer. Hi, Rachel. It's good to see you. We've got viewers. Rachel's just tuned in. So,
Awesome.
yeah, there we go. Okay, let's start. Thank you, Aroha, for being here with me
You're
today.
so
I'm so
welcome.
excited. um, Aroha and I met last year, and when we met, there was an instant connection between us, wasn't there?
Yep, most definitely.
Yeah, and so I'm just so happy that you said yes to coming on today with me. And I'd just like to welcome everybody to She's of Love. And I'm flying solo today without Juliet. It's always so nerve-wracking without her here. But I've managed to get everything broadcasting properly. So I'm really proud of myself for that. And today with Aroha, we will be talking about your awakening story. And I can't wait to hear what how you first started to realize that the world is not really as it seems and it's not what we're being
Mm,
told as children. I
yeah,
sometimes think of it like it's the story about Santa Claus. It's like we are born into this world, we're told that there's a Santa Claus and we believe it as children. Um, and then one day we find out that it's all a big lie and that everybody is
yep,
evil except
yep,
you. I know
mm,
that's how I felt. It was
yep,
like, how is this possible?
yeah,
So,
yeah,
can you tell us, for me, because I've never heard it, and for the viewers, when did you start to really first realize that things are not as they seem?
yep. So thank you for having me, Claudia. Um, it was actually a really difficult question to let sink in because I've never been asked it before, ever. So I sat with it all last night to actually try and process it and how I could best tell your viewers today. Um, I would think in the last 10 years was probably my eye opener, my true awakening. I grew up in a family that didn't believe in anything outside of our world. Um, I grew up religious as well, so that kind of threw a whole nother mix in and my true I say my true awakening, where for myself as an individual I found that the world that I actually lived in was bits of it were not true, and that was growing up in a religious family. Some of the words and things that were indoctrinated into me weren't true, which was like it came on full ball in one big swoop. This is the deal. Everything around you is not how it seems, and you're going to learn really quickly um, what's going on in your life. And I think had I not had the support of my partner at the time, who would even throw in words like, or sentences like, now, you know that's not true, right? And I'd sit there and go, why is he being so mean to me? But actually, my ego would get in the way and go, that's what I've been taught. And he goes, you need to look outside the box that you're in. Just little things that followed up. Grew up in a really religious family, so we were always taught this is how it's going to be, and this is the way it's to be for the rest of your life. However, I think when I hit 16, 17, my life was, that's not how I want to be. Do I then have to split from my family, the family that I love and have grown up with, to actually discover what this world's about? And I did. I certainly did. Also, growing up Māori was very spiritual in itself. Just all the different, I guess, aspects of my personal growth that has happened really, really took its toll when I truly awoke to what the world was about. And actually, like, how do I live in this world? That is it just me, or is there other people out there like me, or and when do I find these people that I can be around? And slowly but surely, I think it really fell into place when I discovered that I wasn't the only one, and I wasn't going crazy. Like, I actually thought at some bits that I was going crazy, because I had always been told, we don't need to use that because that's from the supermarket, or that's been brought in from there, the ingredients that are in it. So I naturally knew that, okay, so I know that's true. What else is, so it was like I played each part of my life, like, is that right? Is that right? To try and rebalance with my own beliefs that I had to now come across, and my values were totally different to what I had been taught for the first 16, 17 years of my life.
So what you're saying is essentially what I'm hearing you say is that you started to realize that there were parts of your upbringing, including religion,
Mm,
that you started to realize actually, I don't have to live my life this way. I do get a choice.
yeah,
And then when you realize that, it grew into, okay, so I get a choice um, to believe what I want to believe. And then that kind of like activated your intuition.
mm,
And then you were, because you didn't have the guidance from your family per
mm,
se,
yeah,
that you started to rely heavily on yourself for your answers.
yeah. Like, I to a point, I didn't actually know that I had gifts. When I was younger, I actually had gifts. And my father was really hard on me, and he always treated me different to my siblings. So I've got 7 siblings.
Now,
Really, really different to what they would do. And I always thought he was really tough on me, not knowing that till, I would say, a few years ago, when it all came apart, and I was like, my gifts came rushing back, and I was like, and it happened in one of my classes that I was studying at. And it just so happened that our teacher that we had, she was gifted too. And she actually pointed me out from the start of the class. She didn't tell me until we actually caught up and spoke. She says, I already knew you were. And I think for her herself, she realized why she was taking our class as a teacher, because she already worked 9 to 5. So we were doing evening classes at the time. And she just didn't understand it. And I think from us talking from there, everything kind of fell into place, that this is kind of the path that you're going to go down. Yep, it's going to be hard. And I had realized from that point that there were certain parts in my life that I had always had somebody next to me, guiding me. If it wasn't my family, there was always like a person that I could go to or just talk to. That was quite a turning point for me, that I realized, oh, I do have people in my life. I didn't want to look at it because I thought, I'm supposed to get a shining beam over this person type thing,
Yeah, right.
Um, but there was always people in my life that I realized had guided me into the direction that I'm in now. Um, but yeah, my dad was always really tough on me growing up, and I had realized that when I met my tutor. She says, look, you just need to take time to walk through what's actually happened, and I can help you with it if you want me to help you. And she realized that it wasn't just me. There was a few in our class that were gifted in different ways, but she had realized that she was just there to help them open up their gifts. Um, but it was quite a big point. I was having dreams of how I lost my gifts. Like these, and I thought, oh, they're just dreams. They're just dreams. And actually, to a point where I actually went to see someone about it, and they says, look, you just need it. Maybe you need to have a talk to your mother. She might be able to give you a bit of guidance around it, or just talk to her about it. When I spoke to my mum about the gifts that I had, she had told me that Dad always treated you differently because you were gifted. You were one of our kids, but actually he always treated you that way, not only to guard you, but because I was really stubborn when I was growing up. I would try anything. I wasn't really scared of anything. And being culturally spiritual, it was a big no-no to some of the areas that my dad used to roll in, like the areas that he used to go into. And for me, and I thought for our family, it was quite normal because he showed us that it was okay. And you'll be okay if you learn how to do things properly and appropriately. Whereas still to this day, I think spiritually and culturally in our culture, it's like a big no. And it's like, come on, like I'm okay with that, and I'm okay with pushing the boundaries in our culture, um, where no one else will, kind of renowned for it now. So, um,
It's kind of one of the things that I think drew me to you as well, because that you have a sure-footedness about you with certain
mm,
things that I noticed. And I was instantly attracted to your strong belief in things and in
mm,
the similar things that I believed in.
yeah,
And when we would talk, because we met at a retreat and there was like lots of
mm,
people there. And when you're in a place with people that you don't know like that, I think it's easy to try and blend in and
mm,
not talk about controversial stuff and um, go with the flow and kind of like
mm,
hide yourself a little bit.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I didn't have to do that with you at all. And when I kind of started to realize very quickly that you and I had similar ideas about the world,
mm,
um, I was filled with so much joy because I was like, oh, that instant feeling of knowing you, and it felt like I had known you for a really long time. It was instantaneous, and so with that, I was like, I've known this girl for lifetimes.
mm,
And I think you even said to me, I feel like you're my sister.
yep. And I says, you in our past life, you were my auntie.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
So, yes.
yep,
And there was definitely that feeling.
Yeah.
coming from this experience for me that I knew you. And
Mm,
I think your gifts that you talk about, um, I admired you because I could feel that you had accepted yourself.
mm,
I could feel that from you, that your sure-footedness around the things that we were talking about was um, so inspiring to me because we were in that environment and it was so confronting to be real in front of people that you don't know.
mm,
You having you there made me brave. Do you
yeah.
know what I mean by that?
Mm,
And helped me to kind of like, okay, this is I'm gonna speak my truth.
mm,
And I did. And it was a richer, deeper experience for me because I did. I know I got some judgments from certain people, but it didn't matter to me, because I thought the feeling that I was having was that it was more important that I be who I really am
mm,
in the experience so that I could experience it in the way that I needed to.
yeah.
And having you there was a huge part of that for me.
Mm,
And I know we haven't discussed this because
yeah.
it's been a while since we've seen each other, but that's definitely part of, like, you are a huge part of that experience for me.
Mm,
And so listening to you now talking about your gifts, um,
mm,
I'm I'm like, yes, because
mm,
I could feel that in you and I could see that in you. And it was one of the things, your ability to speak so clearly and um so with such confidence around this topic is
mm,
one of the reasons why I asked you to come on today. And also one of the things I enjoyed most about meeting you because this stuff that we're talking about can be really confronting people.
yeah. Yeah.
Having gifts, having strong feelings about the world that go against the grain,
Mm,
things around food, because I know we talked a lot about nutrition,
mm,
about chemicals in food, where our food comes from, things like that. And so yeah, I think that will, it's really important when we meet people like you and I met,
mm,
be brave and to really show who you really are in situations like that.
yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, and I think that is part of your gift.
Mm,
Is you make people feel comfortable to be who they are around you,
mm,
which is so, 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 so beautiful and so important because
mm,
if we can't be ourselves, then we don't have real experiences. That's how I feel about
yeah.
it. Yeah. So my
Yeah.
question to you is then, um, how long did it take you, do you think, from when you started to first realize that, maybe the religion was not everything it was telling you that it was? You weren't resonating with it as deeply as what you thought you should, and you're realizing that your dad was really hard on you, and it was like life was squeezing you a little bit. How long did it take you to come out of your shell and start to really live
Yeah.
the way that you do now?
So it would have been just in the last 5 years.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. So actually, because I've always been family oriented, it's never been just me.
Yeah,
And then obviously having my own family, I've had that to kind of, okay, I'm good, but actually no, I
yeah,
know I'm not. Yeah. Um, to the point where I had filed all the paperwork and everything, and I was going to do it my way on how I exited the church.
right.
So I was Mormon. I grew up Mormon. Um, and it wasn't to say that I have anything against my family or any other people
No,
that
but
are a member of them. For
yeah,
myself, I just knew in my heart that it wasn't for me. Um, and me and my partner had made a deal that we were to let the kids choose if they wanted to be religious.
mhm,
That was really big. I actually wanted to go back onto um, what I went through as a kid and what I didn't want my own kids to go through, to make it easier for them so they were able to go through life without those challenges in place.
yes, huge.
Yeah. Like
That's huge.
breaking cycles and barriers.
Yes,
Um, it's really unheard of, and New Zealanders don't like talking about it. They just kind of shut off to it or just ignore it. Whereas I was like, if this is my chance to do something, it's going to start in my own family,
yeah,
where I make the changes.
which I
So
think
yeah,
is massive.
yeah, yeah, most definitely. So yeah, definitely the last 5 years where I've truly stepped into my own voice and my own space.
Yeah, right.
Where I think having all the challenges that I've had to go throughout my life have helped me to get to where I am right now.
Mm. So,
Yeah,
essentially, it's been a process for you. Like
yeah,
you had people around you who were supportive and who guided you into what you believe to be the right direction for you,
yeah.
which like is massive in itself.
Mm,
Um, and so it's been a process of years and years and years of waking up and being brave enough to follow your own path, breaking
mm,
out of the religious part of your family life.
mm.
So I'm curious to know, how did you cope with, like, what were the reactions you were getting from close family members and people that were important to you?
Yep. Um, my sister, my older sister, was really supportive. Um, my mum ignored me for months. And she's not normally like that. I could not say anything bad about her, but I think it was just a way of her maybe to process it. Um, and the way that I approached it was surely good enough that it wouldn't, I, I didn't want to do it as a, you know what, I'm out. Um, but I think because you're indoctrinated pretty much.
Yeah.
I was for 17 years, pretty much. It was Monday. It wasn't just Sunday. It was Monday to Sunday, where my mum and dad held pretty high positions in the church. So we were always doing something to keep you busy in it,
Yeah, right.
pretty much. Um, so it was the hardest one to take was my mum, where would, she just didn't want to talk to me. She even says, oh, she didn't say I disowned you, but it was close enough to, how could you even do that? That's not what I've taught you. That's not what we're about. I can't believe you could do that to me. And I was like, but it's not about you. I'm my own person. Um, a lot of my other family members, they were quite crazy and just says, oh, quite curious actually, because they had grown up in the church with us. What made you want to do that in a curious way, not in a judgmental way? And I guess it was just an opening door to actually, there's more to our life than living that part. Um, Going, the world is your oyster type thing, you
Yeah.
know? Don't be stuck in a system that's gonna keep you in one spot. That's how I
Mm.
see it.
Yes, I have to agree with you. I see it like that too, because I grew up Catholic,
Yep.
and I was, I wouldn't say that I was a devout Catholic. My father,
Mm,
he grew up Catholic in his little village in Italy, and he saw some things that
mm,
with his own eyes that made him believe in God. But the way his faith worked for him, I took some leaves out of his book because he would say things like, um, you don't have to go to church to be a good Christian or
mm,
to believe in God. So he had a very personal approach to his faith. And I
mm,
I really appreciated him growing up like that because it gave me the permission to have my personal relationship with God and not
mm,
just have to follow a book or follow like the rule book, and not
mm.
just, oh, it was all guilt. If you don't go to church, you don't have,
Yeah.
you're not a great Christian and you don't have great
Mm,
faith. And, because going to church was boring,
mm,
and it was like sitting in front of everybody in competition
yep.
who loved God the most. And then all these traditional things, having your first Holy Communion and having,
Mm,
all of these kind of rites of passage and rituals. I put my children through all of those too. Like, for me, it
mm,
was something. There were two prongs to the church. There was the traditional, these are your obligations, was that prong, and then there was my personal relationship with God.
mm.
And for me, the two ran very parallel, but they weren't exactly the same thing. It didn't correlate to me that I had to do all of this stuff to be a good Catholic girl.
Mm,
But it definitely was something that I was handing down to my children,
yeah,
um, because it was just what you did.
yeah, yeah.
And I realized in 2020 when I had my huge awakening, and for anybody who's watching who hasn't seen my story, you can go into our videos and you can watch that, if you're interested. But yeah, it was, for me, it was a big bang. It was like 2020
Mm,
just woke me up like that. But when I look back over my life,
mm,
I see milestones and things that have happened in my life that were signposts for me. And at those pivotal moments in my life, I had a choice of which way to go.
mm,
And sometimes I went down roads that were, like, really informative and grew me as a person. And other times I went down roads that kept me asleep, kept me comfy in my bed with my doona, and
mm. Yep.
cozy, not wanting to look at anything. So yeah, until something happened in 2020 and it was just like bang, and blew everything wide open for me.
Yeah.
And then that was like a floodgate opening and just everything started to make sense. Everything started flowing in. And then, I met you last year, and meeting you was like another signpost for me that I was on the right track, and that, um, the intuitions that I was having and the things that I was finding out about the world I was sharing those with you.
Yeah.
And
Do you remember? Do you remember? When we first met at was it the airport coming out of
yeah, it was that
the
car.
airport?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember that.
It was like I sat at the back. I think I was quiet for a moment, and I think it was like I'm okay. And you felt familiar,
Yeah,
like really familiar to the point because so I hadn't done a trip overseas for a few years and on my own without my kids and my family, who I
you
knew were okay back home.
you and
Yeah,
I met in Brisbane. Yeah,
yes. And um I was nervous, but okay, because I was like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to get this done and, do what I need to go through the motions of being at the retreat.
Yeah.
Um, and as soon as I met you, I think that was my calming point. It was like, I'm okay. Actually, she feels like one of my aunties.
Yeah.
She actually feels familiar. Um, and then it was like this whole thing just lifted, and it was like, it's good. I'm gonna be good there. And actually, if I hadn't gone through that moment to process it myself in the back seat, I think it would have been totally different for me
Yeah. It would have been
because
totally.
yeah, and I wasn't expecting such you'll be fine. I didn't expect anything like that where actually it did happen. And I'm
Yeah.
so grateful for that. I don't know what it was or how it was supposed to be, but that was my turning point of yes, you're in the right place.
Yeah.
You'll get
And
through this and
meeting you was like, because I was coming from Sydney to Brisbane,
yeah,
which was huge for me.
yeah.
So, meeting you and knowing that you'd come from New Zealand, all the way from New Zealand for the retreat, I was like, wow, this woman is so brave. Like, I really got that about you and how you put yourself out there
Mm,
and that you didn't know anyone at the retreat. And I was like, wow, like, so I knew the person running the retreat, but I
mm,
didn't know anybody else. So I had a safety net anyway. Plus the
yeah,
fact that I was coming from Sydney, I lived all my life in Australia. You were coming
yeah,
from New Zealand and you didn't
yeah,
know anyone.
yeah,
So it was like, I love this woman's bravery. Like it was huge
yeah,
to me that you would do that. And I've really recognized that. And part of
yeah.
meeting you was like you said, it was like a hug.
Mm,
It felt familiar.
yeah, most
Um,
definitely.
yeah, because I recognized that about you straight away. And then when you said we were talking, I think we were talking about cleaning, which
Yeah,
is so arbitrary, but such a common thing. The whole conversation was about cleaning, and you said from the back seat, "Oh, you're my kind of person."
yeah.
It was like, yes,
What I loved about you is actually I saw it. I saw moments of I'm gonna speak my truth.
yeah,
I think there was a moment where you guys, there was a few of you up on the lunch table and you were talking about something, and actually I just spoke up and says, you know what, I don't have any of that in my house,
yeah,
and it kind of was like our voices just kind of clicked. I
yeah,
was like, yeah, and I was like, my person, my
yeah. Because I
person.
put myself out on a limb a couple of times at the
Yep,
dinner table, and um, I saw a few side eyes happening,
yep,
and I felt them actually.
yep.
Um, but I don't know, something in me, there was just something in me that needed to
Mm.
just crack it open and
It
be
was so
real.
beautiful.
And
Yeah.
then hearing your voice come in through the side and was like backing me up in a way, but you weren't backing
Mm,
me up in a way that was kind of like trying to give me support. You were telling your truth, which naturally was along the same lines.
mm,
And it was all to do with food, and
yep.
a lot of, you know, a lot of the lies that we're told about food and a
Mm,
lot of lies we're told about just, you know, politics a little bit. Though I think
yep.
there was a little bit of that in there. And there was just, and then it built over the days. And I
Yeah.
remember we had conversations in the pool and in the spa, in the sauna,
Mm,
in the spa, sorry. And yeah, and it was like deeper and deeper and deeper
yeah.
yeah, this, we run parallel, you and I.
Yep. Yeah. I think
And
not only that, it gave the others the opportunity to just hear
yeah,
because maybe they had just never opened their eyes to that kind like the outside what is actually out there.
yeah,
And I know one of them did go away and she was like, I need to look at that. I was like, that's cool. If that's and it wasn't to like me and you were just talking, and she was quite curious, and I thought, if that's how I'm going to play this out in my life, then that's okay. I'm okay with that,
Yeah.
respectfully.
Yeah.
But
Just planting seeds.
I'll never shut up about what's actually, you know, what world we live in.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
because there
So,
was all sorts of things that we were talking about school with our kids.
yep,
We're talking about our experiences, like your son, because I have a son and you have a son similar age. So we're
yep,
talking about their experience at school, and how they're dealing with certain things. And yeah, it was very life affirming to me.
mm,
And the fact that there were people around who were listening and hearing things for the first time
yep,
was, it was, it was a good thing. It was hard. It was definitely, I think, confronting for me because when I first started to wake up, I was screaming things from the rooftops
yep,
to people that I loved,
mm,
and that some people were not ready to hear what I was saying, and they
yep,
really retaliated.
mm,
I thought, in my need to love people and to help people and spread the truth to people,
mm,
I was I alienated a lot of my friends and a lot of family members. And so for me to speak my truth with you the way that I did was quite confronting because I didn't want to alienate people, which had been my experience in the past.
mm,
And so, but the way that it happened was so natural and it was so non-confrontational because we were just talking, that it
yep,
actually planted the seeds that needed to be planted.
mm,
And I have my beliefs, and I'm um, not here to push those onto anybody.
mm,
But if I'm talking like this today with you and me, if we're talking about something and people are listening and they are going, oh yeah, like I always wondered that as well, or yeah, I don't understand why the the governments around the world are GMOing things and making wheat, you know, harder to digest, and
mm,
this and that and blah blah blah. If that's going on in their brains, then fantastic,
yep,
fantastic. And so the next question I wanted to ask you about your awakening story is, were you with your partner, because I know you're with somebody now, were you together with your partner before you started to wake up, or was it, and then he had to come along on the journey with you, or did you meet him after that?
yep. So um, I got with my partner in 2001.
Right.
So I was 21 at the time, and I think we both were on the same kind of journey.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, he's always been quite staunch in what he believes in his values, and um, so for myself, whether he's I've always kind of thought that he has been my shining light and my guide
Uh-huh.
in some kind of form or way. Um, and I think I've grown a lot more in that space that I've been with him, starting out from, yeah, okay, I need to look at a few things too. You know what? This is how it's going to happen. Like this is it. To the point where he's been amazing. I think if I hadn't had the support that I had from him, and obviously working my way through things in my life that weren't right at the time,
Right.
I just, and I wouldn't say I don't know what it would be like. I just don't. That's just the life that, and the lessons that I've been dished out. I've certainly grown to understand when a lesson's in place,
Yeah.
and how I have to shift the things that are in those lessons. But he's definitely been a pivotal point in me opening up to what's not right in the world. My true awakening has
Yeah,
been with him
interesting.
along my side. Yeah.
Yeah, so you were together before before you started to really wake up to the
Yep.
world.
Yep.
And he was instrumental in that. And so you've
Mm,
kind of been walking the path together this whole time.
yep. And to the point where I actually thought I was going crazy, and I'd look at him and go, "You're still here?"
Yeah, right.
Yes. Yeah. Like, you're still here after all the stuff that I say to you. And he goes, yeah, but I've got my own things that I've been going through as well. So trying to actually we've started to work really well in the areas like, okay, I need 8 minutes of your time because 8 minutes is what helps me to work through these things and just give me the space that I need to be able to process it. So we always have a thing. I just need 8 minutes of your time. And then from there it kind of progresses. But he knows that when I say 8 minutes, I just need him to be there.
Yeah.
Um, and we have definitely grown into spaces that I thought we would never. And it's lovely to have somebody that has the same kind of values that I have. So lovely. We do have moments, and I'm not saying we're perfect, but we do have moments where actually no, I disagree with that, and whether it's his lesson that he has to learn from it. Same goes for me. So we just work as best as we can um, through the things that are, yeah, the lessons that we're given.
Yeah.
It's gotten a lot easier in the last few years.
Yeah.
I think, like everyone was saying, I was having a talk with my friend this morning, but I just says, look, COVID was amazing for our family.
Yeah.
I
Right.
think we grew over that time. Like, we actually had to be in each other's spaces and give each other space at the same time.
Yeah. It's so important, isn't it?
Where all our family members and our friends around us were like, oh, COVID. I was like, we loved it. We absolutely loved it. I think we thrived more in that space. And actually, my kids' truth came out too, that they realized, Mum, I'm not allowed to go to sports because I'm not, you know?
Yes. Yes.
And I was like, son, you just have to have faith in me at the moment.
Yeah.
Just, hang with me. Where he got the choice to go and do things that wasn't in our values. And that in a way to me was like, where is it to a point that they're kind of the same values that I grew up with in the church? Like,
Yeah.
my mum and dad were telling me, you've got to have faith in me.
Yeah.
And I'm telling my kid that he's got to have faith in me.
Yeah.
That's that was a two-way. And I would sit my son down, my oldest son, who was 14, 15 at the time, and just tell him, look, there are things in this world that you don't understand at the moment. If you want me to talk to you about it, we can definitely have that conversation. I'm willing to have those for the first 17 years, we never got those conversations. It was sit down, do what you're told, and stop crying, or I'll give you something to cry about. And
Right.
unfortunately, that was a lot of Kiwi families in my generation. That's what we got told.
Yeah.
And it was so funny and weird. And when I said that to my son, I was like, yeah, no, I'm in the right place to telling him
Yeah.
this way rather than how I was brought up. Like, shut up, sit down, do what you're told.
Yeah.
Um, so we really tested our relationships over that time for me to actually trust him to go to school. As stubborn as I know he is, as stubborn as I am, that he would come home and actually save kids from the COVID bus that was happening.
Yeah. Right.
So that was a part of my awakening. Like, I'm doing right for my kids,
Yeah.
for myself, and standing in my truth. That has gotten me to the point that I need to know, yep, I'm okay.
Oh, it's so good.
I'm good.
Yeah, so good because I think a lot of people were, oh, this is so horrible for our kids being locked up. The
Mm,
because children, I think, in their formative years, having a lockdown the way we did, not being able to go to school, not being able to see their friends, and then
mm,
when they did go to school and see their friends, there was so much pressure
yeah.
um, to join that COVID bus, if you know what I mean.
Mm,
Um, and I think if you look at it, like really, really look at it, it was such a great experience on the other
mm,
hand for them because it helped them to make a decision for themselves and stick to it because it was bloody hard.
yeah.
If you were not going with the flow, I mean, can you imagine at that age, like young teenager age, all you want to do is fit in with your friends.
Yep.
And it would be so scary to go to school and to see the COVID bus going, and you're standing on the sidelines going, bye, to all your friends,
Mm,
and you're left behind.
mm,
To be like to have the strength to have faith in your parents and listen
mm,
and figure it out for yourself and still make your own decision about it is, I think, well, one, it's an amazing opportunity for our children. And
yep.
two, the kids that stuck to their guns and said, no, this is not for me. How
Mm,
freaking cool is that?
yeah.
So amazing. Because I know we talked about our kids a lot when we were on that retreat. And it
Yep.
was like, yes, like we talked
Mm,
about their feelings. We talked about how they were coping with it, how how the questions that they were asking and how we would answer them. And
mm,
as mums talking to each other, we were
yep.
like comparing notes about how we were raising our boys. And
Yep.
um and I just think it's so, the stuff you were telling me about your boys was like, oh,
Yeah.
it's like, yes, they're so strong
Mm,
in the way they were dealing with things at school and the
yeah.
experiences they were having and the answers they were giving to their teachers and to their peers. And like it was just, yeah, so wonderful. And I know for my son, he came to me 2 weeks before COVID hit our shores,
Mm,
and he had never heard the word COVID before. Like it wasn't even in
mm,
his realm of
yep.
reality, and asked to be homeschooled.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, so good. And then when COVID hit our shores, and then it was like all of this stuff that was going on at schools with them being separated from each other and
Mm,
having to wear masks and all of this stuff, he didn't experience any of that. He didn't get any of
mm,
that because he was at home. We were preparing to homeschool him. And so, um, yeah, it was just like so many times I've thought to myself, he knew
mm,
somewhere inside himself, he knew because of the
yeah.
timing was just so perfect. And then for him to not be experiencing that kind of pressure at school
Mm,
was, for me, it was like such a relief.
yeah.
Because so many children, and he was talking to his friends, like they were telling him what it was like at school and how bad it was. And yeah, it was just like, life is just funny, isn't it? How it
It
works out
is.
sometimes.
It is.
Yeah. So, all right. What time is it? Let me check the time, see how we're going with everything. We got another 10 minutes. So, in the next 10 minutes,
Mm,
maybe we should focus our conversation on how you're going now with things like since
yeah.
the last 5 years of your life. How did it change you, your path? How did you, and how are you going? Like, do you have plans for the future for yourself and your family? Like, let's talk about that.
Yeah. So actually, me and my partner have been speaking about after doing the retreat, he's doing a bit of healing himself
Yeah, right.
and going through emotions. And I've always told him actually there's places that we can't move forward because he says that he's okay. And it's like, how long do I have to leave you to actually realize that we need to work on these things? Like, you're good at doing that with in your workspace,
Yeah.
but actually at home, it's not working out, and it's like a block. So he's been throwing around the idea, so just to even do some, we call them wānanga, just sessions of healing. We were at Waihi Beach for a couple of days, just in the beach, and we get the kids to sit down with us and do a meditation session. Just in the morning, we're on the beach and actually just inviting anyone that wanted to come and sit and hold space with us. It was so funny. We didn't know that, like, we all had our eyes closed, and then when we heard people around us like, what are they doing? Oh yeah, let's. And we all, at the end of it, it was a really quick session. At the end of it, we opened our eyes and there was about 10, 20 people sitting by us. They had dogs and the kids were running up and down the beach, and quite safe. The beach, the water was out, so it was okay for the kids to be running. And I could hear the kids. I was like, oh, that's cool. I could hear them quite close, not knowing that their parents or their aunties or their nans and grandparents who are sitting with us, in front of us, behind us. And then to the point where my partner got asked, oh, do you take sessions? Like,
Yeah,
just
right.
free sessions. And we were like, maybe we should do this a bit more often. We have retreats and places that people can go to in New Zealand, but actually we were thinking they give spaces to express yourself and be, but actually they don't have a space where you can teach somebody to actually take it away and do it themselves.
Right.
So we've definitely been looking at that. I'm actually really good. I think I've come into my own in the last couple of years where I realize that everything is for a reason.
Yeah.
If I'm having a really hard time, what is it that you want me to take from this? Okay, I'll remember that for next time. Um, and I think I remember um, the words that were said at the retreat. If it's something that you've experienced before, how do you go into it and say, what can I learn from this? What's something new I can learn from this?
Yeah.
And that's always kind of stuck with me. What's something that what's something new that I can actually learn from this?
Yeah.
If it's something that I already know, so that's really stuck with me. I myself am so I've given up on actually working for somebody else.
Right.
I work for myself.
Yep. Wow, that's
That
huge.
is going really well.
It's so
It's
good.
actually going really well. I just told my partner I'm never working for anyone again. Why? I don't want to work 9 to 5. I want to be able to have the hours that I can to do what I want, and actually when I want, in a good timing, and be able to deal with the kids as well. Um, so I've kind of worked up to that area that I can work for myself. Spiritually, I've been connecting with a lot more. It's weird that it's just like an opportunity opens where friends or family might have somebody that needs a hand with something, and would you like to do a session on whatever you're looking at?
Yeah.
Not to say
Awesome.
that I'm there, but it's actually, I guess, a healer, it's giving the person an opportunity to be able to heal themselves
Yeah, you're so
in a
good at
really
that.
safe space.
Yeah, that's a huge gift that I've noticed that you have is holding space for people because
Yeah.
you're such a beautiful, strong container
Yeah.
of clarity. That's what I
Mm,
feel from you. Like you're a clear container. So when you're holding space for somebody, it's like you have these strong walls where they can be themselves and they can express what's going on for them in a way that there will be no judgment,
Mm.
that you will be totally and utterly like giving them the hugest hug, metaphorically, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
And so that they can process,
Mm.
and you can just be there to witness that in them and to guide
Yep.
them and help them. Like I say that I can, I think this is like why you're successful at it, because I
Mm.
like you're just so good at that stuff.
Yeah. So there's a few things that we're doing. Me and my partner are actually looking at just being able to work for ourselves
Yeah,
and do things in our own space, that we understand that there's certain areas in our own culture that nobody will go near because it's been told that you just don't go in those areas, where
yeah,
actually
right.
it's because they don't understand
Yeah,
those areas properly. And not to say that we know everything, it's actually just giving somebody the opportunity to be able to look at themselves differently in a space that's kind to themselves. Like,
that's so beautiful.
yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah. Um, but other than that, I'm actually in a really good space. I think learning. I've had my moments where I've just like getting myself out of dark spaces is quite easy now, and
Yeah,
actually it doesn't happen as much. Whereas I thought my whole life was going to be like that, in
yeah,
a really dark space, and it was only me. So I
yeah,
guess I had to go through all these moments to be able to sit where I am and know for sure that, yep, I'm and just it just happens naturally, going through the right places and in the right direction.
yeah.
um and it didn't happen overnight.
No,
How I hear some people say, this is me, like surely they would have had to go through a few things too. But it's weird, it feels like my whole life it's been like that, and then the last 5 years just like, oh, that was crazy,
yeah,
that was really crazy.
yeah.
To now where I have a bit more control over it, and actually it's okay if it happens.
And how wonderful that your whole family is kind of like your kids and your partner are coming along for the ride with you like that. I think that's
Yeah,
so beautiful too.
yeah. So just going back to me and you at the retreat,
Yes, please do.
I think had I not met you, it would be very, very different. But I think for myself, I'm so glad I got to meet you. I just kind of after that, I was like, what was that? Like, I don't get nervous over things very, very much.
Yeah, I can see that in you,
But the
100%.
nervousness was just, um, and I think I said in one of our sessions, actually it was you that made me feel at home, like I felt at home away from home. And that was a big turning point in my life. Like, actually I can be anywhere at all. The people that are around me are the ones that will anchor me in the space that I need to be, and it will naturally happen.
Yeah,
And even if it doesn't, um, that feeling of connectedness will always be there.
yeah.
Yeah,
And as you said, it's like through points of your life, you've met people who've guided you and who've held you and supported you. And I
yeah,
definitely felt like you and I are those people to each
mm,
other.
yeah,
And it was such a beautiful feeling of kind of like, oh, I'm in the right space. I'm
mm,
in the right place right now. It was that feeling when I met you. It was like we're doing it together and we're meant to be here.
yeah,
Yeah. And that was such a beautiful feeling because it can be so intimidating
mm,
to be in it, like particularly for you. I mean, you came all the way from New Zealand to do it.
yeah,
So it was like you know, like I said to you when I met you, I was like so like I wanted to give you high fives
Yeah.
for coming because it was such a
So,
huge.
so I decided I had just finished a contract for the work that I was doing. That was around COVID things in New
Yep.
Zealand, and it was so stressful that I actually wanted to go on holiday for a week or two, just away without my kids, and give myself just some breathing, like an actual holiday.
Yeah.
And I kind of I was going to go to Hawaii, and I just threw it out to university. Just let me know if I'm supposed to go there or not. And within like the day, I pretty much got told, no, you're not going there. But actually, I know you've already seen where you're supposed to go, and you better get on that phone call to talk to who you need to. And it just worked out because normally with the phone call bits of any kind of interview, I'm like, yeah, I'll just forget about it. But
Yes.
it just happened so naturally. And then I see the place that I was supposed to go to in Hawaii had had fires.
Wow.
And I kind of knew from there that that was confirmation they didn't want me to be there at that time. And being an Aussie was more important, which actually fell into place with meeting a few new family members in my family before and
That's right.
after.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it just kind of flowed. And it was like, that's what that's supposed to feel like. That's great. Um, so it was just an awesome experience at the time, and it's obviously helped me to move forward in what I'm actually doing now and what I want to do, what I
Mm,
want to do more of. Um, I also deal with Māori medicine.
mm,
Um, so for myself, I don't, we don't, I don't want to charge. I actually just want to be able to facilitate a space that can help other people to help them in areas that they don't know how to deal, or they don't want to go to the doctors. It's like, yeah, no, this time you have to go to the doctors, but
yeah.
just be that voice of balance.
Like a
Is it?
supportive place where they can come
Yeah,
and
yeah,
congregate and talk about the things that
yeah,
are worrying them
yeah,
and get the direction that they're needing.
yeah,
That's awesome. I
most
love that.
definitely.
Oh, Aroha, you've got to keep me informed with how that goes. Like,
I
honestly,
will.
oh, yeah, I'm
I
really
certainly
interested
will.
to know how you
Yeah.
progress with all that stuff because that I think
Mm,
that's amazing. Because my dad, coming from an Italian family, that sort of stuff in his culture,
mm,
I don't think it's exactly the same, but I understand the need for it because there
yeah,
was a need for it in his culture too, particularly with the men.
yeah.
Yeah. So, oh, awesome. We did it. Aroha, we did it. I always get so excited when I like do this stuff by myself. It's so cool. And I would love if you would come on again. If would you come
Most
on to the show
definitely.
again?
Yeah,
You
most
probably
definitely.
with Juliet next time.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So I think we've come to our time now. Let me just check. Yeah. So we've been an hour. So yeah. Awesome. Thank you for your
Yay.
time. Thank you for
You're
talking.
welcome.
And we'll definitely see you again in another show.
Yeah.
Mwah.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week. Bye.